Hi there, this is Danielle Tremblay of WhiteLightConnection.com, Animal Communicator. So perhaps you're in this situation. Maybe you have a cat or more that meows at you loudly in the middle of the night, all for the purpose of getting you up so that they can feed them. So here's a couple things that I did when I was in this situation. I decided one day that my cat waking me up in the middle of the night was no longer going to work for me. I had permitted it for a couple years. She was into the routine. It was very much second nature for me to get up 1, 2, sometimes 3 times in the middle of the night to get up and feed her. And I did that in part because she has a stomach situation, a GI sensitivity situation, where if she doesn't have canned food in her stomach every 4 to 5 hours, she actually vomits. So, we prevent days of her GI tract being off kilter by indeed keeping food around the clock in her stomach. So it's something that I had encouraged for a couple years. So, a couple months ago I decided that her waking me up in the middle of the night was no longer working for me because I wasn't getting enough sleep. And so here's what I did. It may be something you give a go for yourself. So I have 3 cats, including her. I said to her, I am going to start sleeping through the night. Okay, and this is something you want to tell with your animals. You want to explain to them what's changing because they're creatures of habit just like we are. Explain what's changing, why it's changing, and how you feel it's going to benefit them as well as you. So I actually had this out loud, and I just told her out loud versus telepathing it to her, conversation about the benefits of it. I explained that I honored and respected the fact that she has a health situation where she needs to eat round the clock, and that I indeed would do that. And that I would make sure before I went to bed, instead of her needing to wake me up to let me know that the food bowl was empty, I would put enough canned food that she should be able to make do with getting up herself in the middle of the night to actually go and eat. So that's something that I did. I also made a point of feeding her as well as the other 2 cats right before I went to bed, so they'd have food in their stomach, because there's something to the saying, rest and digest. If you have food in your stomach, a lot of times humans, you eat enough, same with animals, are going to want to actually go off and rest. The blood in the stomach actually, when there's a big meal in the stomach, actually goes to the stomach and the blood flow concentrates in that area. And so the animals tend to be more mellow and calm anyway. So I actually use that to my advantage. I fed right before bedtime. Not only that, I do feed my cats a couple times a day. So their second feeding, first feeding is always in the morning, second feeding is just before I go to bed, and it works for us. So the second thing I did was I actually informed her about the alarm clock that I would set for 6 a.m. every single morning that would allow the alarm to wake me up, and that I promised her the first thing I would do as soon as I woke up was actually go prepare any canned food that she needed in order to refill her bowl, removing the old, replacing it with the new. And I asked her if she would please honor and respect this new change that I was needing to implement for my own health's sake of sleep, and basically said she was no longer to be the alarm for me anymore, that it would be replaced with the alarm clock. Now, this particular cat I was talking to happens to be deaf. Okay, she cannot hear when the alarm clock goes off, but by just me telling her out loud and her receiving the intuitive awareness of what it was I was talking about was indeed enough. Because from that start point of telling her, tonight I'm setting the alarm for the first time, please don't wake me up, you've got food, you know where to find it, it indeed worked. She has not meowed any more than I think maybe a couple nights over the past 2 months. And those couple nights that she did not meow, I actually did not get up from bed in order, because I didn't want to perpetuate the old routine that we had now that we were in the new routine. So that seems to work for us. Now, if you have a dog, I have a dog, happens to be right here behind me. Okay, so I have a little Chihuahua. So in order to have him not eat her food, of course, I actually have a situation where in my bedroom I have an attached bathroom with a very large counter, and I will take the canned cat food and put it on top of there. And in order so she doesn't have to jump so high, I've got a little stool there to make it easier for her to jump and get her canned food without giving the dog access to it. So those are a couple things you might wish to try. I found them very helpful. That conversation, feeding right before bedtime, and making sure she had canned food throughout the night is exactly what worked for us. Wishing you well. Take care.